In this video, I'll be talking about marketing strategies for music artists. Hey, my name is Tobey from Training Business Pros. I feel really qualified for this subject because not only was I a recording artist for many years as a professional musician, but I'm also a marketer and I've run a digital marketing agency for several years. And of course, I've helped a lot of companies and a lot of artists market their music to the world. So I've got 6 really important strategies that you're going to need to use if you want to indeed increase your exposure, get your music out there, and maybe get yourself a recording contract and win. All right, so we're going to get started in just a second. Okay, so today I've got 6 really powerful strategies to help you as a music artist get your music into the hands of other people and start building your career. Let's go with number 1. Number 1 is not necessarily a marketing strategy, but definitely very important. Whatever you're going to produce in terms of music, make sure that it's as professional as you can get. Now, I totally get you might have a limited budget, you might not be able to afford some fancy music studio, and you've got this home recording. And quite frankly, the gear for making home recordings is great. It's never been better. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's professional. There are very professional ways of recording things. Now, whether you're a singer, a musician like a piano or drummer, whatever it is you're recording, the way that you're doing it, the way you're miking it, the way that you're committing it to your software and then producing it is very important. Now, the recommendation that I have for this is whatever you've created, make sure you get it into the hands of a professional. Now, yes, there may be varying degrees of professional, but by professional, I mean somebody who makes their living in the music business. If you're just running it by friends and your friends all say, wow, that's awesome, it's not necessarily what you're looking for. What you're looking for is somebody with experience to give you feedback on what you're producing, whether it's great. Because you don't want it to be average, you want it to be great. And of course, good or bad, it's subjective, but at the end of the day, a professional knows the difference between a good recording and a not so good recording. Many of the recordings that have come across my desk over the years are quite suspect. And I'm sometimes wondering to myself, why would they produce something like that and stamp it onto a CD or put it out into the world digitally? I was like, what were they thinking? I don't mean to be a music critic or snob or anything, but as someone who knows music really well, you have to kind of take advice from professionals because otherwise you're just listening to well-meaning family and friends, and as well-meaning and intentioned as they are, it's not necessarily all that helpful if all they do is give you praise. You're really looking for constructive feedback. All right, let's move on to number 2. Once you have some good recordings, it's very important to get some radio airplay. If you get radio airplay, and I mean not just traditional radio these days, I'm talking about online radio and music aggregator sites like Spotify or iTunes or CD Baby. So all of these websites and online things, they're not that hard to get your music on. In fact, all you have to do is create an account and start uploading. Now, that doesn't mean anybody's going to listen to it, but it does mean that it's available so that if somebody does hear your music, they can pass it off onto somebody else and say, hey, you need to check this out. So yeah, the more airplay you get, whether it's traditional radio or online, it's really going to help you because the more ears that you can put to your music, that's going to help you with your reputation and, of course, get you further along in your career. It's not always necessary for people to buy your music in order for you to be successful. It's just they need to hear it so that when you go out into the world and you do festivals and things like that, that they've heard about you. All right, that's very important. Let's move on to number 3. I can't stress this enough. Number 3 is build an audience. Now, I just talked about in number 2 that you need people to listen to your music. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when they listen to it, get them on your mailing list. And I think this is a mistake that a lot of musicians make. Just like any business, people don't necessarily take action on things until they hear about something many, many different times. So you have to stay in front of people. And one of the most efficient ways to do that is to get an email address and put them in your contact relationship management software. And I totally get that might be new to you, but you can check out Groundhogg at groundhogg.io. And for a few bucks a month, you can get an email list and start sending people some information. Now, what can you tell them? You can tell them that you've got a new recording on the horizon to get in the queue to buy it. You can talk about your gigs. You can talk about anything that you're working on. And that audience who loves you and loves your music, which is why they got on the list in the first place, they're going to pay attention to that. They're not going to go to everything. They're not going to buy everything, but they will when they feel like it. And if you're not staying in front of them, you're going to drop out of sight in their mind, and that's just not going to work for you. So get some people on your mailing list. That means when you go to your gigs, hey, collect some email addresses at the door, pass around a sheet at the club and see if they'll sign it. Those kinds of things. And I know that musicians are very shy about doing those types of things, but I can't stress enough the power and the importance of a mailing list. And of course, get as many performances as you can and continue to build that mailing list. What's a good size mailing list? I don't know, 5,000 people, 10,000 people, you determine that. But if you don't build one, it's really tough to stay in front of people because people's attention is very divided, especially when they're listening to music. They're not always just going to listen to you. They're going to listen to a bunch of things. But if you're not staying in front of them, then you may not make the list of things that they regularly listen to. All right, let's move on to number 4. Now, this is an important one. It does take a lot of effort, and I'm not going to particularly go through all of the details on how to do this, but there is a strategy to start, maintain, and grow a YouTube channel. Now, I have some really solid proof that this works. In fact, recently, in the last, now it's been almost 3 months now, I've started a music YouTube channel for jazz musicians. It's called the Jazz Musicians Channel. You can find it at JazzMentl, JazzMentl. Just type that into YouTube and you'll find the channel. Right now, in fact, today it hit 350 subscribers and you're saying to yourself, wow, that's not a lot. Well, that's because I got started less than 3 months ago. But right now, it's growing at the rate of 5 to 10 subscribers a day. So by the end of next month, it'll be a very different number by the month after that. And then apparently, as far as I know, it's going to hit this curve that's going to go upward and it could grow to 100 subscribers a day as long as you're producing great content. Now, there is a strategy for this. If you want to know what it is, all you got to do is ask me some questions below and I'll give you some pretty solid feedback on how I did this. Now, I went from 0 to 350 subscribers in, like I say, just under 3 months. When I get to 4 months and 5 months, I'm going to continue to post information on how well that's going. But I've seen other people not even follow this strategy. It takes them much longer, but their channels can grow to like 1,000 views a day. Some people 10,000 views a day. It all depends on how YouTube sees your channel and uses its algorithm to help promote you to other people. And that's typically what happens if you do it well. But it's all about consistency. So if you really want to grow an audience, my suggestion is you jump on YouTube, you learn some strategies, and you start building your channel. Now, if the only thing that you're doing is posting your music, I don't think that's the best idea. I think what you need to do is you need to talk to people. You need to share some information with them, maybe help them learn something. For example, if you're a vocalist, maybe give some vocal courses, and it starts to help build up your reputation. And that's really important in the music business. So I've got 2 more strategies to share with you. Number 5 is practice, practice, practice. You can never practice your craft enough. And I understand that a lot of musicians get to this point where they feel they've plateaued. You never want to plateau. You never want to get to the point where, okay, I'm happy with my playing. I'm happy with the way I'm singing. I'm happy with the way I'm performing. That's never the way to deal with the music business. You always want to be honing your craft. I'm talking about at least a couple of hours a day throughout your entire life. In fact, from the ages of 8 to 40, I never stopped practicing like 2 hours a day. and I'm a very proficient piano player, someone who's put out 8 albums, had a record contract, all of that. But none of that would have happened if the music wasn't of very high quality. So I'm going to encourage you, as good as you are, keep practicing. And the final one is number 6, and this is a fairly simple one to understand, very difficult to do, and that is be different. The music that you're producing has to stand out. And developing your own sound, your own style, your own brand, the way you communicate with audiences, what you say to people on your email list, the way you market yourself, all of that, you've got to stand out and be different. Now, if you want some advice on how to do that, that's what I help a lot of companies do. In other words, stand out with their products and services in the marketplace. It's very much the same for musicians and artists. You really want to figure out your brand and what sets you apart from the rest of the world. It's not about being better, it's about being different. All right, that's my 6 strategies for music artists who want to market themselves better and grow their careers. Again, if you have any specific comments or questions about this, please post them below and I'll make a video about that. And consider subscribing to the channel. Might be kind of fun to see you in another video. Thanks for your time.